Hey guys, how you doing? I think I'll be live for the Switzerland-Hungary match tomorrow. I won't be here. Um, well, I'm off to the bar, so I'll be live really briefly for Spain and Croatia. I will not be live for Italia, Albania, although um, I will be live for Italia, Spain. I'll be live for Ronaldo. I should be able to be live for Game 5 of the finals anyway. I'm absolutely certain that Donald Trump is going to lose re-election. Now, I'm very nervous. Well, from an electorate standpoint, Donald Trump doesn't have a chance of being elected because, quite frankly, the Republican Party doesn't have a platform, and the Republican Party is not catering to the younger Gen Z and the latter portion of Gen X. And the Republican Party has done a terrible job of embracing women's reproductive rights. It is something that the Republican Party could win some women over. That pure optics would say if it's about winning, you don't put your personal beliefs over allowing women the right to choose. And now, if women feel that their right to choose is threatened because of the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, then they're going to vote Democrat. And it's just something that the Republican Party, if they're for small government, they need to be all for the women having the right to decide what she can and cannot do with their body, that there's no place for the government to do so. So I think that aspect is going to happen later. I think Ivanka Trump is going to emerge from the shadows in 2028. So the GOP is going to win in 2028 because that's when they're going to be serious about climate change and embracing women's reproductive rights. And Republican Party is going to, once this election is over, that's basically the end of Trumpism. That you're going to have a real 21st century identity. You have to have a real identity, a real platform that resonates with Gen Z. So that is going to be the future of the Republican Party right after the end of Donald Trump is imminent. And now I'm going to show you electorately from the electorate map why Donald Trump basically has zero chance of winning, because basically the GOP has to win every swing state available to win the election. And the Democrats don't even need to win every swing state. That's the thing. So I think they're playing defense. And already, I'll just say that Arizona's purple, and there's a good chance that Donald Trump could win in Arizona. Even if he wins Arizona, even if he wins Georgia, he still needs a lot of votes to win the election. And it's something that women's reproductive rights is going to be a very big thing that could try to win over these down the middle votes that the Republican Party is just simply not getting independent votes. Now, let's say if the Republican Party rigs the election. Let's say if the Republican Party stops the counting of votes through the mail. If Donald Trump steals the election, my God, we are at risk of World War III. Because Donald Trump praised the invasion of Vladimir Putin. He praised the invasion. I remember him saying it's all good. We don't need to do anything. Donald Trump is basically a stooge of the Russian oligarchs because they're the guys that bailed out his businesses. When his businesses failed, no U.S. bank would loan money to Donald Trump. So who did Donald Trump turn to? He turned to the Russian mob, the oligarchs, the rich. Basically, they have state-owned monopolies in Russia. It's the rich that own the government over there. So the same people that run the Russian government, these are the people that are loaning money to Trump to keep his businesses afloat. And Donald Trump, when he does so, is basically making himself beholden to Vladimir Putin. He sold out if he's taking Russian cash. Russian cash demands something in return. It's serving Russian geopolitical interests. Vladimir Putin, he wanted to establish a greater Slavic state. He wants to reestablish the Soviet Union. So why did Donald Trump say we want to get the United States out of NATO? Because by weakening NATO, it makes it easier for Vladimir Putin to attack. So if Donald Trump steals the election, we see the end of democracy as we know it in America. Donald Trump is basically going to stop sending money over to Russia. And when that happens, then invasion becomes inevitable. The NATO alliance is weakened without American cash. It makes it easier for Vladimir Putin to take territory. And at that point in time, that's when it starts making it worse if Russia is making gains from the ground. So that's Vladimir Putin's master plan. He's going to try to put Donald Trump in office. Donald Trump is here to stop giving foreign aid to Ukraine because Vladimir Putin wants to weaken the allies of Europe by not having the help of America. It makes it easier for Vladimir Putin to overtake these lost territories that used to be part of the USSR, that used to be part of Russia. Basically, Putin wants to create a greater Slavic state. So Donald Trump is going to try to get America out of it. And Donald Trump is going to, when he does so, when Russia is taking these territories, if Donald Trump, a president in America, does nothing, you and I and your fellow brethren are going to get drafted and sent off to fix what shouldn't have happened in the first place, because a real president would be giving money to Ukraine, would not be allowing the situation to get worse. If Putin is able to overtake, basically, the Europeans don't have any defense because it's subsidized by America. We pay for their defense. Their weapons that they use are from America, predominantly. So that is why we're at risk of World War III if Donald Trump is sworn into the White House. Because Russians lent money to Trump. He sold out in return. They kept this business empire afloat. In return, Donald Trump has to serve these Russian geopolitical interests. So Donald Trump is beholden to Vladimir Putin and the entire Russian Federation. Russia, they haven't overtaken Ukraine. They haven't. That's because of foreign aid. Russia, they can't fight this war forever. You know, it's got to come to an end eventually. But if we stop sending money over there, Russia can overtake the entire country of Ukraine. That's what Donald Trump would allow to happen. And if they invade NATO, that's when World War III starts. I'm telling you, if Donald Trump if he wins this election, World War III is happening. That's how World War III would happen. I know Donald Trump won't win. I know most people in America are very decent. They don't support a hate monger, an open divider in crisis, a guy who openly attacks the citizenry on Twitter instead of using his language and his rhetoric to bring people together. Want to try to work with the Congress. That hasn't happened under Donald Trump. The only people that benefit from Donald Trump's presidency are the billionaires, the politicians, and the bankers. No infrastructure bill was passed, even when the Republican Party had both chambers of Congress. We didn't get a bipartisan infrastructure bill until Joe Biden became president. Donald Trump did not return jobs to America. With the CHIPS Act, at least we've gotten some manufacturing jobs back to America thanks to Joe Biden. None of these things happened under Donald Trump. Under Donald Trump, the trade deficit has increased even more. What you're getting out of Joe Biden was far more than anything we've gotten out of the entire presidency of Donald Trump. There's a reason why Donald Trump lost. In recent trends, it's impossible to lose re-election. The only guy that could blow it was Donald Trump. All Donald Trump had to do was take COVID seriously and he would have been re-elected. People would have forgotten about the tax breaks. They would have forgotten about the tens of millions of people that Donald Trump kicked off of their health care. If he simply took COVID seriously, if he simply tried to bring everyone together, instead of dividing and calling it a hoax and attacking the Democrats, you see, Donald Trump would have been reelected, but he doesn't act like a statesman at all. He is completely, woefully unqualified. To him, all he saw was the numbers on a sheet. He was so worried about the economy tanking that was going to lose the election. All he had to do was take COVID seriously. People didn't like the fact that he downplayed and did nothing about COVID and hundreds of thousands of people died. But these are not the only people that affected. It's the family members, it's the friends of people who died. So it's not just the 400, 500, whatever, how many thousand people. It's way more than that are affected. At least 1 million people. 1 million, 2, 3 million people is a lot of people that are affected. Just from hearing about the death of a friend of a friend. It doesn't have to be your friend. A friend of a friend that you know died. You know, that's what happened with Donald Trump. But I got the election history spreadsheet right here. Basically, the swing states that Biden is going to win, basically, with the exception of 2016, these states in the Midwest have been pretty much hardcore Democrat. Michigan and Pennsylvania is going to go to Trump. Arizona, I could see going red. Georgia should go back to being red. Democrats don't even need to win North Carolina. Hypothetically speaking, if it's a toss-up in Florida, which I don't think it's a toss-up, Democrats can still go on the offense if it really is a coin toss in these territories. It's not like more older people are voting this time around. I mean, older people have died off with COVID, and younger people are voting. 18-year-olds 2020, 18-year-olds 2024. Young people still predominantly Democrat. And this is what's costing the Republican Party the elections. The legalized weed is over. That was the thing in the 2010s. And basically what they need now, I think women's rights can be the legal weed that, you know, Republican Party will need to kind of bring these people down the middle. That's what's costing the election. I think the economy is doing better than it was in 2021, but it's still pretty mediocre. I mean, 2%, 3% GDP growth is pretty mediocre when historically this economy would grow 4, 5% GDP growth, 6%, 7% some years. So growth is still very sluggish, but inflation has slowed down. So the economy is going to help Joe Biden because it's basically what it was in 2018, 2017. I mean, half of the country is, you know, one paycheck away from going broke out the street. That's why we needed all that COVID money in the first place, because it's not like we were making gains for social mobility. We still have a lot of income inequality in this country. The rich and the CEOs are still making more relatively to what the workers and the people are making. So that part hasn't changed, and that's why you're still seeing the just under 3% GDP growth. You see, the right wing trickle down nonsense never worked. They were promising 3 to 4% GDP growth. Just cut the taxes for the rich. Not once under Trump's presidency did the GDP growth get to 3%. I think 1 year is like really, really close. I think it was like 2.99 or 98%, but GDP growth was never, ever hit 3% under Donald Trump. This trickle down nonsense just doesn't grow the economy. It's a huge myth. Bottom trickle up works. You gotta create demand if you want to create a job. You want to create demand if you want to spend more money, create more output. That's why trickle down piss water economics is bullshit. That's basically the entire economic ideology of the Republican Party, but it's not going to go away. They'll distract the public, whatever. They'll still fearmonger with the guns. They'll probably get behind women's reproductive rights. They'll make it easier. Republicans will say it's time to embrace acting on the climate. I think it can at least get a little bit left. I think a little bit more center. I think these hardcore libertarian ideals are unsustainable. Of not giving a fuck about the environment, and just this earth is going to be one polluted cesspool if we don't start acting on it. So that's where people are going to say, hey, the Republican Party is the biggest threat. They're the biggest existential threat to mankind when they're not taking man-made climate change seriously. Something's got to change. Got to reduce the amount of pollution. Got to clean the air. Got to clean our lungs. Republicans outright deny that climate change is happening. It's a consensus among the scientific community that climate change is real, it's happening, it is the biggest threat to mankind. If both parties can work together on it, we can take action on the climate. We could be hopefully this country could be the leader, the driver, and not a follower on climate action. So Donald Trump and the entire Republican Party are out of touch with younger voters, and it's going to show in the results. It's not like they don't even have to like Joe Biden to vote for Joe Biden, because they see the alternative. The alternative is far, far worse than Joe Biden. They may think democracy is at stake because Donald Trump did try to overthrow democracy on January the 6th of 2021. He tried to overthrow the election. Like a mob boss, he intimidated, threatened, harassed Secretary of States to not verify the outcome of their state's elections. That's what's at stake, was having coups every 4 years. Coups becoming a regular occurrence. That's what Donald Trump tried to make happen. Democrats, they accepted the results of 2016. They didn't cry about a rigged election for Donald Trump. They took the loss, took it to the chin, got back at it, focused on the next election, had great ideas for climate change, to reinvest in American jobs and clean energy. These are the kind of things this is why the Republican Party has no platform whatsoever. Joe Biden's got this in the bag. I don't know how Donald Trump is going to win this election. I don't know what's going to make young people vote for Donald Trump. It's changing. It's a different America. That's what it is. That Donald Trump doesn't have a chance of winning the election because he is out of touch with the new generation. Donald Trump is old and racist and a bigot, and he likes giving tax breaks to billionaires, and he did nothing to stop COVID. That's the Donald Trump legacy. He wants to help Vladimir Putin take over and regain the rest of the USSR. That's what Donald Trump, this guy's a freaking terrorist. He terrorizes Americans by gutting them of their health care, by alienating and attacking random American citizens on Twitter with negative energy instead of uplifting and bringing people together. He's a terrorist as far as his foreign policy goes. He wants to give the USSR back to Vladimir Putin. He wants to destroy NATO as we know it. You're not supposed to make it obvious. So I think the plan all along was if Donald Trump got a second term, that he was going to absolutely do the bidding of Vladimir Putin. Because Vladimir Putin, you don't know how much time he has left on Earth. So the plan was to usher in Trump and wreak havoc on NATO, try to take over and reestablish a USSR and see some progress before his death. That's what Vladimir Putin wants to see. Oh yeah, let me get out my map just to show you how impossible it is at the current state of the Republican Party to win the election. It's in the bag. It's in the bag. Ivanka Trump, she is a liberal. She is going to act like she's changing and revolution, changing the Republican Party. I mean, hopefully it is not a libertarian revolution in the Republican Party, because that's the worst thing we need. Basically, Republicans work for fossil fuel companies. This is why they're against climate action. Oil companies are terrorists. Everyone is against. People hate big oil. It's like, who do you think rigs the supply of oil? They purposely cut back future production of oil because the plan all along for Donald Trump was, if he lost the election, that he was going to try to hurt Joe Biden with the gas prices before 2024, because basically Trump and Saudi Arabia, they agreed to cut back production, not during COVID in 2020, but they also agreed to do so for future years, like 2021 and 2023. So they are trying to hurt Joe Biden because, again, the Republican Party are the guys that will do the full bidding for big oil, not the Democratic Party. Again, Donald Trump is a 13-4 life path numerology. He's a 4-year president. He wins 1 out of 3 elections. Joe Biden's a 20-2 life path. He's a 2-term president. He's a 2 life path. He's a 20-2. He goes 2-0 in elections. It's a lock. Joe Biden wins. Kamala Harris is president. Ivanka beats Kamala in 2028. Republicans regain the White House in 2028.